Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start this session. Right now we are on the first concurrent session of the day, and it is the Young Adult Diversion Partnership Project with Dr. Greg Finkbonner and Anna Larson. Just a few reminders before we start. Everyone is muted just because we get feedback, and that can mess up with the audio, but you are able to unmute yourself if you have a question or need to chime in. At the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's also an option to open a chat window, and you can type in questions if you'd like. And also at the top of the screen, there should be options for you to change your view. Like I think you have speaker view and grid view and things like that. If you choose speaker view, then you'll always see the person speaking as well as their presentation. So just a few tips there, and I will now turn it over to Dr. Finkbonner and Ms. Larson.
Thank you very much, Cindy.
You're welcome.
And my name is Dr. Greg Finkbonner. I am the Justice Program Administrator in the Education Branch for the Department of Juvenile Justice. I have been with DJJ for the last 5 years. Before that time, I served as the Director of Academic Affairs at the University of Phoenix at the Louisville campus. My educational background includes a bachelor's in education, master's in school administration, and a doctorate in educational leadership. One of the roles that I have with DJJ is that I represent DJJ on the Young Adult Partnership Committee, which we will tell you about shortly. And now I'm going to turn it over to Anna Larson. She will introduce herself and then start us with a little warm-up activity.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see some other faces. I feel like I've been so alone for so long that I'm starting to appreciate Zoom. So as Dr. Finkbonner mentioned, my name is Anna Larson. I'm with KY SkillsU, which you all might know as adult education. I've been there for a little over 2 years, and I'm the partnership coordinator, strategic partner director actually there. And prior to that, I was with the Department of Workforce Investment in the same role. So partnerships kind of in my wheelhouse. Also, I have, about 23 years experience in blended workforce and education at every single level you can think of, federal, local, with the community college, and also with the state. So thank you for having me. We're glad to have your attention for a little while and share some great things with you. Okay, but before we get into everything, what I want to talk about for a second are octopuses. I know you're probably thinking, why in the world is she talking about octopuses? But there is a rhyme to my reason. So when I first started my role with partnerships, I was trying to think of things that had a lot of reach, whatever that might be, whether it was an animal, whether it was a system. And I started doing some research and came up with octopuses and learned a lot of neat things that I want to share with you very quickly. First of all, I don't know if y'all knew this, octopuses have 3 hearts, 9 different brains, 1 at their head and then 1 on each tentacle that all work separately. And they also have blue blood, which I thought was very important for Kentucky. And like I just mentioned, they can all work independently, each arm along with their brain, I suppose. Next slide, please. So I also learned that the way that they do things is they kind of like humans, trial and error. They try to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and they make changes accordingly. So we can go ahead and move to the next fun fact. So they're masters of camouflage. Of course, they're down on the ocean. They have to find their prey. And so they actually will mimic every single thing around them to be able to stay hidden. And this has absolutely no relevance, except for this is a virtual conference. And so I didn't have to worry about this much. But if you didn't know, if you can go to the next slide for me, octopuses have to stay engaged. And if they get bored, they will sometimes eat their own arms. So that worried me, of course, when we were in a classroom and teaching something about this. I didn't want anyone getting too bored, gnawing on each other's arms or anything like that. So finally, they use different tools in their environment to try to make things work. And so one example of that, if you go to the next slide, is that they use things like coconut shells to live in. And it's kind of like a mobile home. They can take it all over the ocean. So finally, they are problem solvers. And there was one study back in there was a Pacific octopus, and they put her in a jar and she was able to get out within 5 minutes and get her food. So really, overall, the reason I'm telling you all these facts is that I feel like it applies a lot to all of us who serve the general public and are trying to find things with limited resources, having to use what's around us, having to have all the reach that we can, with anyone we can that we think might be able to solve the problem for our customer or our client. And that's why this initiative is so important. And you can go to the next slide, Greg. Oh, that's just a picture of an octopus with a Rubik's Cube, which I thought showed the problem solving skills. But this little cartoon is just to say that was what this partnership was all about, was working with each other, using all of our tentacles, if you could, to try to figure out how to best serve the people that we serve every single day. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Greg.
All right, thank you, Anna. So the importance about this committee, before I go over the agenda, is that we've seen that the recidivism rates in Kentucky for juveniles to reoffend were in the 60 to 70% range. And that was the last time that I checked back in 2017. And I'm sure it's gone down some since then. But I look for adults, and adults it's 46.4%, and that's in 2020 according to the worldpopulationsreview.com. So that means that almost half of the adults released from prison are going to reoffend again and possibly end up back in prison, or for youth and young adults, it's even more. So what our committee is aiming to do is to change that percentage by helping the transition of youth and young adults from prison or from YDCs to career or college with a holistic approach, and thereby providing a successful experience and reducing the rate of recidivism. Ms. Larson and I are going to show you the efforts by the committee for the goal attainment. We're going to show you the latest developments by the committee. We're going to show you about a resource guide that we started working on, and then provide the opportunity for you to give us some input or feedback. So that means like towards the end of this presentation, there'll be a chance for some questions and some feedback for us and for you. Okay, Anna.
Okay, so the background of this committee, basically OCTAE, which is our federal funder for adult education, had started a pilot program, and they were looking for different states and regions all over the country to try to participate in this grouping. And we were one of 14 selected. And basically they were hoping that we could help to work together to find strategies to reduce recidivism and find that tie between employment and education, and be able to really identify how to reach the young people, because everybody felt that that was really a challenge for us. And so that's how it got started. I believe it was back in 2018. And we just started incorporating, it was almost like it snowballed. We just kept adding new partners and different ideas. And so it became a very large project that took, quite frankly, a lot of time, because there was a lot of coordination involved. So as I mentioned, we started, we had, as part of the project, we had to do a needs assessment. So we worked with all of our partners on that, trying to figure out the different strategies under education and workforce. And remember, this is for 16 to 24-year-olds. And so what we found was the needs were a little bit different for a 16-year-old, for example, than it would be for a 24-year-old. We had technical assistance from Manhattan Strategy, which was hired by the federal government to assist us with this. And also I attended a meeting in Washington, DC about it, got to meet with the other 13 programs and find out what they were doing, which was quite frankly, very different than what we were doing. And I'm not saying it was good or bad. I'm just saying they chose to do things different. Some were very focused on a very small population, and it may be only in one small town. Ours, it was obviously for the whole Commonwealth of Kentucky, which we felt at the time had its strengths because we could kind of all unify and provide services across the entire state.
I might add here too, Anna, that there was a survey done, a needs assessment survey, correct?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And so we really tried to be as inclusive as we could to try to figure out what the challenges and the strengths of all of our partners were and try to collectively look at what we could do and how we could strengthen those relationships to really be able to provide more services to our customers.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good.
So of course, when you have a lot of partners around the table, everybody has to kind of agree in order for us to move forward, or the whole thing falls apart. So, you know, we at first had to come up with a title, which was the Young Adults Diversion Partnership. We were constantly, the good news was people were very engaged, and so they were constantly asking to invite other partners, which we felt was a very good sign. Now, we knew it was going to be a 3-year timeline, and that can sometimes cause some kind of concern because that's a long time to do a pilot. But we felt that we would be able to move forward with it as long as everybody around the table committed, which we were very fortunate they did. And then, of course, we had to develop, you know, our mission, what were we going to do? Because like I mentioned, there were so many partners that we had to kind of bring it in a little bit. In order to do that, we came up with goals and also action items. Okay. Okay, as I mentioned, the partnership, the vision statement basically is working with 16 to 24 years old to try to support either their academic or their workforce goals, as well as provide wraparound services so that they could meet those goals. So really, number one, it was reducing recidivism rates, whether it was at-risk youth who hadn't gone into any kind of program yet or already justice-involved youth. And also trying to bring in the workforce side of things, which we were able to do, to really do a holistic approach at a plan, if you will, for the young people, and to be able to give them options, because I feel like sometimes we don't give them as many options as we should. So we thought that was very important to say, here's some really neat things that you can do, and here's the pluses and the minuses, because I think they're able to make informed decisions, you know, the better choices they're going to make for themselves. And for us to be able to facilitate that is great.
All right, so the young adult providers or the departments, organizations, and other groups that were represented on this committee included the Whitney M. Young Jr. Job Corps Center, and that's out of Simpsonville. Of course, Anna Larson with KY SkillsU. We at the Department of Juvenile Justice got involved in this early on. Department of Corrections had a number of areas, such as the Probation and Parole Division, the Reentry Division, and the Education Division. The Department of Education was involved and had representatives there. Department of Community-Based Services, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, the Office of the Secretary. Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities, the Kentucky Community and Technical College Systems Office, the Kentucky Partnership for Families and Children, and then finally the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services. And there may have been a few others that were involved, but these are the ones that we had listed with us. Like Anna was talking about, this was a very large group that with a lot of interest by a lot of organizations that came around the table to be involved in this. So, which we think is great.
Okay, so Remember just a minute ago, we were talking about the blend between employment and education. And so we thought it would be really helpful to show you this very brief video about a program called GED Plus. And then I'll be happy to share more information about it after we watch this very short video. Because I think it's really a new way to look at the way that we engage and encourage young people and give them manageable things that they feel like they can attain.
For some people, the high school to college to work path just doesn't happen. Life gets in the way. We get it. We also know that if you don't have a high school degree or GED, it can be really hard to find a good job. And you can forget actually finding a career that you care about that pays enough to make it worth it. Here's the thing. Many employers these days require a high school degree and even some college. Believe it or not, a lot of jobs in Kentucky are going unfilled because we don't have enough people with the right credit. Kentucky needs you, and you need a little bit more education. That's why we developed GED Plus. It's a program that helps you get your GED plus a college credit and get a head start on a great career. In about 4 months, you can complete your GED and a certificate in one of 5 areas. These 5 areas are industries that are experiencing shortages in skilled labor. So we know we can connect you to a good job in your area when you're finished. Oh, and did we mention this is all tuition free? So to recap, here's why now might be the time for you to get started on a better life. Get your GED plus a college certificate plus a career that you love minus a whole lot of money. Contact your personal advisor now at gedplusky.org.
Okay, so that was just a real brief video about the GED Plus program. It's actually a partnership between KCTCS, the Community and Technical College System, and Kentucky SkillsU. And what's neat about it is that they're concurrently getting their GED at the same time as they're getting a short-term credential. And when I say short-term, I mean 16 weeks or less. It's a certificate. A lot of times in those 5 high demand industry that the video mentioned, it allows them to see a light at the end of the tunnel. If they were to start in August, it could be done as even earlier than December. There are all types of programs, and a lot of them have building blocks, so they don't have to stop there. They could go into an entry-level job with that certificate, and then the following semester, they could even build on to that certificate. A lot of them have career pathways, if you will, and so they can continue to move up in whatever industry that they're interested in. It is tuition free, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But it's a program that I think we've tried to put out there, and people just aren't as aware of it as we'd like them to be, and we want people taking advantage of it. So we thought it would be a good idea to share it. You can see that the actual link is on the screen. So when you get your slides, you'll have that as a resource. And of course, we're always here to answer any questions that you may have about that.
You want me to show what's at the link, Anna, or just go on?
No, I think we can go on. You know, I think I want to share with them the people that can help them with it. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Okay, so we talk about it being free, and of course they say nothing in life is free, but there are work-ready scholarships through Kentucky that are available. And really, they tried to make it as open as they could. And so basically, if somebody doesn't have an associate's or a bachelor's degree, and they will take at least 6 credit hours, 2 classes generally, then it will pay for the tuition for the students. In addition to that, I mentioned again earlier about workforce partners, academic partners. Because we have these partnerships that have been developed, things like, for example, Kentucky SkillsU adult education, we had free GEDs up until June 30th, which was great. Nobody had to worry about that being a barrier. And as you all probably know, you'd say, oh, well, it's $120 or $130 for all 4 tests. Well, that's a lot of money to a lot of people. And to have that taken away as something for them to be concerned about, I think speaks volumes. The same thing with workforce. The Kentucky Career Center system has wraparound support services dollars for these types of programs. So as an example, if the welding program is paid for by the Work Ready Scholarship, but they don't have money for steel-toed boots, or they don't have money for a face mask for welding, these other programs can complement that and pay for those services for them. So the great news is, if you can see the link at the bottom, the Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority, or what they're known as KEA, their job, and you might have heard of KAES money, for example, they handle all of those types of supportive dollars that get people to post-secondary education, and they have a whole team of outreach people. I think there's 13 of them across the state that will come out and work with your group to help to not make it so intimidating, for example, to fill out the FAFSA or other things. I don't know that I wouldn't mess up a FAFSA these days. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I mean, that takes away a barrier and has that support to help them navigate the college system. You know, I worked at Jefferson Community and Technical College for 13 years, and you would be, well, I guess you wouldn't be surprised, but I was at first, at how many students, if they just came to the wrong building, that was enough to deter them, and they would leave. Because, you know, they were nervous and they didn't know where they were going, and it can sometimes be daunting. So these are folks that can help you navigate the system.
Okay, I was just showing a little bit of the website there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Are you ready to go on?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, other resources. So in addition to what some of Anna was talking about, I'll talk a little bit about each one of these, the youth development funds. And I'll just show you just a little bit about the youth development funds. As soon as I find it, sorry about that. I know it's just sometimes a little bit harder to navigate on these particular in the Zoom there, and I have it on my computer, but I just can't seem to find it right at the second.
While Greg's looking for that, you know, I will mention that Kentucky SkillsU also has something called College and Career Navigators. So anybody who enrolls in our program gets a navigator that helps them do goal setting, lets them know about different labor market information and things, you know, helps them to understand a realistic view of where they want to move their career to. And you know, how much it's going to pay. I think sometimes, I know when I was younger, I thought that the money was going to be a lot higher in certain areas than it was. That, I think that's another thing, anything that can help support them, I think makes sense. And I was actually on a conference the other day, and one of the things they talked about that I was so surprised about was the fact that they said that this generation, the younger folks, really like you. They don't have any problem with you constantly reaching out to them, which I thought was surprising, because I know I would probably be like, okay, I heard you, stop. But like they said, any kind of inspirational quotes or just little pictures or things, that's how they communicate. So I found that to be very interesting takeaway from that conference.
Okay, so you should see now the youth development page. Can you see it there now, Anna?
I don't know. We're on the GED page still.
Okay. Okay, hold on just a second. Does it show the?
Yes.
You see
Yes.
it now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the youth development funds are available to committed youth ages 16 through 21. And for this particular group is to support the participation in extracurricular and enrichment activities. These funds should only be requested when using other funding sources that have been explored and exhausted, such as the foster parent community programs and so on. So this one is just could be requested up to 2 times per year. And then it just includes all the directions and instructions for that, for the youth to be able to fill out and complete. All right, the next one is the second chance grants. The purpose of Second Chance Scholarship is to give foster youth another opportunity to return to college and further their education. This scholarship will give foster youth financial assistance toward paying off any delinquent accounts at post-secondary institutions. They can return to school. To be eligible for this scholarship, youth must have established a payment plan with the institution and be making payments toward that debt. The scholarship will match up to $1,000, and then there are instructions for how they would fill that out. Okay, and then this next one is called the fostering. Let's see if I can find this one. Sorry about that. It's called the Fostering Success. You see that one there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, just making sure. So Fostering Success is a 10-week workforce development initiative sponsored by the Department of Community-Based Services. And that provides current and former foster youth the opportunity to participate in paid internship while receiving professional development and career planning support. So of course, this one's for youth that have been in the foster care system. And as you notice, a lot of these programs have a lot of resources for kids that have been in the foster care system. So a lot of resources that they can take advantage of within that system. All right. The last thing I wanted to share was about the IPS providers. And I just wanted to show you a quick map of that one. Let's see if I can find that. Okay. So IPS, Kentucky IPS support employment, and this is as of last year, 2019. And so some things may have changed since then. But this shows a map of all the IPS supporters for employment. IPS is an acronym for Individual Placement and Support. This is an evidence-based approach to supported employment for people with mental health challenges. So as you can see that there's quite a spread across Kentucky of different resources and IPS providers there.
Yeah, and so a common theme in all this, and it came up as we were working through this partnership, is that each of these different agencies has different resources that maybe the other ones don't know about. And a lot of them can be blended, can be utilized at the same time. You know, some of them are just a one, they have to be the only program, but a lot of them, they can use more than one to get to where they need to go.
All right, I'll get back to the PowerPoint here. Okay, a couple other quick things to mention is the resource guide. So one of the areas that we started working on with the committee was a resource guide. As Anna has mentioned, there were a lot of different resources, a lot of different things going on, and we were looking to pull all of this resource together into one place where you could, just go down the list and access all of these great resources and opportunities. So that's where we started we started working on this guide. It's definitely still a work in progress, but it's definitely one of the things that we really wanted to walk away with by the end of the work that this committee was charged with. The other area was a pilot study that we started to work on. And the pilot study was meant to just get started with, something small, because we knew it was such a big task to undertake. So the pilot study was meant to then just focus on certain areas. So we decided that there were 3 areas that we could start with, and that would be an urban area, a suburban area, and then finally a rural area. So so that's where we were beginning to work before this COVID hit and kind of put a damper on things, and that's kind of where we stopped work. So that's about as far as we got with the pilot study. Anna?
Yeah, so, there was a small group of us, Greg and I included, that kept trying to stay connected through the COVID, via email or phone calls, and trying to figure out, because the project actually ends in August. So next month, only just a few days away, really. And we didn't want all that hard work just to go to the wayside. And so we found out that a couple of different initiatives were going on. One of them was with the Community and Technical College System, and they had received a small CIPRA grant to do some data and to find out specifically around young people, young adults, some of the barriers. And so KY Stats, which is a state agency, and they're just terrific at what they do, they came up with a map, and it's a very interactive map. And Greg, if you don't mind to click on the link.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I have to preface this by saying I'm certainly not an expert at this map. I learned a little bit. The neat thing about it, once it comes up, I'll wait till it comes up, but it really can give you a lot of information very quickly. And I feel like it can help a lot of our agencies do a better job at reaching out to different opportunities and knowing where to focus their energy. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I know, at least for me, my entire career has been public service, and what's always been a challenge is there was so much work to do and not enough people to do it. And so prioritizing has always been a priority for us. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, limited resources to be able to do that job. And so why I find this to be a benefit, this map, is it shows things like poverty levels. It shows things like homelessness, like people that don't speak English as their first language, so ESL types of things, so that you can really look at it. And I like pictures, so you just literally just roll over the different counties, if you will, or you can put a search in to ask for certain things, and it will give you that data. And they're continuing to improve upon it. And there are actually other maps in this Kentucky Stats report. And it may not be coming up very quickly because it's kind of big. But if we can't get it up, you can at least see the link and click on it once you get the slides and be able to take a look around. And the other thing about it is KY Stats, they're very proud of their hard work, and they will work with your organization to come out and share things with you and walk you through a presentation on it. I know I've seen several, and each time I'm always impressed with all the great information that they share. Now, I do have to admit that my dad is a statistician, so I kind of got it from him being a data girl, but it does at least, it's a real big picture type of thing, but then you can also hone it. So it doesn't look like it's cooperating.
Does it show you any of the stats on there?
No, it's just the blue circles just going around. So we may need to.
Oh.
Someone just sent it in the, thank you, Cynthia. She's put it into the chat for you.
Oh,
But at least it'll give you an opportunity to play around with it. And there may be some of the other charts that you're interested in as well.
yeah, I'm sorry that didn't pop up there.
Yeah.
On my end, I can see the map, and it's very cool. A lot of great tools that you can go to on here, and like you said, just hover over it and gives you lots of information. So yeah, definitely have to check this out and look at the information that's there.
Okay.
All
So,
right.
yeah, maybe we can let you move to the next.
Okay. Doesn't want to cooperate very well this morning. Is it still on that same screen?
Yeah, so while you're working on that, I can kind of bridge it. So that was one piece that once I found out that they had that grant, I wanted to get connected. And so I went to the meetings and learned about it. And they've actually received more dollars. And we're getting ready in the next few weeks to talk about how to best move forward with the project. In addition to that, the Kentucky Workforce Investment Board is also doing a resource guide, like Greg had mentioned earlier, except theirs is more focused on the monies coming into the Commonwealth. So if you can couple our resource guide, so all of the great work that's being done with those dollars, with the actual dollars that are coming in, and figure out how to marry the two to make even a better chart or a higher look at what the effect is and are we using them properly and all those good things. So we're hoping that that's the next phase of our project. And we're hopeful that once COVID allows us to, that we'll still be able to continue with the local and regional study that we were hoping to do with a focus on an urban area and a focus on a rural area, because that was another challenge that came up with us, is because our project was so big and it covered all 120 Kentucky counties, that the challenges weren't the same necessarily. Some of them were, but not all of them.
Okay. Next steps.
Yeah.
So
We are going to continue the resource guide work.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, as I just mentioned, the whole urban, suburban, and rural area. We're hoping that once this opens back up, that we can continue on with that. And we've already done some of the legwork to reach out to the career centers and other places that already do some really terrific work with young people. And you know, I have no shame in borrowing that, if you will. And seeing what works and what doesn't. There's no use in reinventing the wheel if something's working, and so we're hopeful about that as well.
Okay. And also just to kind of wrap things up here too, with working, as was mentioned, with the other group, what we're excited about being able to pool our resources together, because the other group that we're joining, that Kentucky Workforce Investment Board, has a lot of resources and things they're already working on and that we weren't even aware of. So it's very neat to, figure out that, wow, there's a lot of things out there that we can connect to, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just join with what they've got going on, and then we can, really get some work done and produce a lot of resources for groups and organizations that are out there. So at this point, we just have questions. We'd like to answer any questions that you may have. Feel free to put it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and just call it out, and even feedback. If you have some feedback, next, things that we can work on for next steps, we'd love to hear that too.
You know, I'm curious to hear how you all work together in delivering services. Um, you know, is it a regional delivery system, or how do you all word out and share information?
Uh, Lisa just mentioned that rural areas are in such a need, and I kind of learned that too, that you get out in those smaller towns and counties where it's just hard to find resources. Even transportation is difficult, maybe to get kids to where they need to go. So yes, definitely. Um, and then Wes Blake just talked about these are all helpful resources. Um, Jim Daniel, DJJ kids have such poor aftercare in regards to students leaving and starting life on the outside. So why isn't there more tracking of those kids? So very good question. I think that's something that DJJ is very interested in doing, is to be able to track kids. We do have some policies that prevent us from actually, sharing information because they have been in DJJ, but we are kind of looking at policies to see if we might be able to change those so that we can do a better job of just tracking and helping them get into a better situation. So, yeah, that's
Well,
part
and
of
if I
the
can add to that,
yes.
I feel like that sometimes if we can transition them from that system into one of these programs, that, you know, they all have, I hate to call them case managers, that's just so personal to me, but they have people that are there to coach them and mentor them and keep them engaged and help them navigate, if you will, to next steps in their life. And, you know, if you have that kind of relationship and partnership with those organizations, and you can call, hey, remember I referred, you know, Joey over to you. How's he doing? I haven't heard from him for a while. Is he doing okay? I mean, and then if there's more than one person reaching out to Joey, to someone's point earlier, you know, or Joey might call you back and say, hey, I'm doing great. I'm fine. You know, we had one partnership with Department of Corrections that came out of this that was a pretty big deal. We, our two secretaries of our cabinet signed a data sharing agreement, and we started monthly referral tracking, and each partner agreed to do 3 follow-up calls for each referral back and forth so that we closed the loop. And we kept the data, and we did it every month for a long time. And we did notice the referral amount going up because we broke it down by area, and everybody could see how many people they were referring to different services.
Yes, so some very good examples. So Ms. Burton, she says that, yes, we are looking at developing more of those aftercare transition services. And we work together at DJJ. So even just the fact that we're involved in this partnership here has grown a lot of interest by the DJJ folks. Our commissioner is very interested in the transition of youth and the education of youth. And so I think that is a big deal right now that we are looking into.
Well, and if I might add,
Yes.
there's 2 notes that I'd like to kind of address at once. And one is Lisa's note about the opioid crisis, and the other is mental health services when they transition. And those 2 areas, we were actually fortunate enough on our adult committee that we had representation from both of those organizations. And there are a lot of things that I learned about the opioid crisis, as well as the different services through community-based services and through children and family health services. They're putting more of a focus on the mental health issues, and they're trying to become, they had talked about it, and I don't know if you all are aware of this, but there's a bunch of, I'm going to call them, there's Starbucks-esque type of places where safe places where young people can go, and non-judgmental spaces where they can go and access computers and be around their peers, and hopefully start to develop those relationships. Because as you all know, when they feel like there's a cohort, or they feel like other people understand where they're coming from, they're more likely to support each other and lift each other up. And so I was really excited to hear about that as well.
Mhm.
You need some, oh,
I was going to mention that the partnership, one of the things that we were working on was to maximize that the justice involved youth. If we streamline the process and increase that communication across all the departments, we call it a warm handoff. A warm handoff is that, we don't just let them go when they leave us and then, say, good luck, you're free, you're good. And then they try to figure out where do they go for resources. But a warm handoff is where we actually have whoever's working with that youth to contact the community-based service people and say, here's this person, this is what they're needing, and can you help them, can you meet them? And the warm handoff is just, there's a familiar face to share that information with, so that then they can take that youth and then get them into the resources that they need. And so that's what we mean by warm handoff. So those are connection points for those young adults, and trying to get and find those services that are out there. So obviously we see a lot of resources out there, but it's making those connections for people to be able to, to find those things and get them started.
well, and to your point, I mean, there's a big difference between saying, okay, go to this address, they can help you with these types of things, and here's a piece of paper with it on it, and we'll see you later. And you picking up the phone, the young person seeing you. I have this guy who he is so interested in learning more about your program. Can I go ahead and send him down to you, Sherry? I mean, there's a huge difference, because then they feel like they can walk in there and that person's expecting them. I think that right there helps a lot, just to do that.
Absolutely. Okay, Cindy says, is this presentation available to share? And then would anyone in this session like to receive it? So basically that we can share all of the resources that we have. And if you want to give your email to Cindy or just type it in the chat box, she'll make sure that you receive this information.
And I personally, and I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, Dr. Finkbonner, but my email's on there. If something comes up afterwards that you think about, or you want to pick my brain on, or more importantly, you want to share with me, I am more than open to you doing that.
So right there is your email address to be able to reach. Is that the best way to reach you?
Yeah, right now it is. I'm pretty good about answering my emails, probably to a fault. But no, I'm happy to do it. And, we can always start out by email and then set up a time to talk on the phone if that's easier.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's I respond to emails almost immediately. And so just feel free to reach out to me as well. That's my email address, and that should work. So anything else that you want to share, Anna?
No, I mean, I just appreciate the feedback, and honestly, I mean, I think that everybody that works in this environment has something to add and has ideas, and I'm a true believer in trying something, and if it doesn't work, okay, then we'll try something else, but trying nothing isn't going to get us anywhere. So any ideas that we can come up with, it may bring other ideas on. And if you're interested in becoming a part of the committee, I mean, just let us know. We're not as active as we were before because we're getting ready to close out, but we certainly can share information with you. No problem at all. We're happy to do it.
Yes, absolutely. And we will at DJJ continue to work on the transition part of it for our youth. And so we definitely, this has been a good work for us, and it's been a good partnership and working together. Anna, Larson, and I have been kind of the ones that have been kind of keeping this going, keeping it alive. And we've never actually presented on it before, so this is the first time for us. And it's exciting to share, and we'd love to share more of this kind of information with others. So, so thank you for your attention, and I'll turn this back over to Cindy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody. This session officially ends at 11:15, so you have a little time, and then our next concurrent session will start at 11:30. So you have about, I don't know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and hope to see you all later. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.